All right, now we're going to turn way up to outer space. This summer, a group of researchers led by the University of Minnesota discovered a bizarre new plasma wave above Jupiter's North Pole. In fact, the plasma wave they found is unlike anything else recorded. One researcher on that team is from the University of Iowa. So we have Dr. Bill Kurth joining us now on The Current. He is a research scientist, an engineer, and has spent years leading the study of intergalactic waves. Dr. Kurth, thank you so much for being here. There is a lot to unpack. Can we start with the spacecraft that made all of this happen, the one you happen to be a lead investigator on? I mean, tell us about what Juno is and what its mission is.
Well, Juno is the first polar orbiter of Jupiter. It arrived actually on July 4th of 2016, and it's been orbiting Jupiter ever since. One of the main focuses of the mission is to study the interior of Jupiter to try to understand the evolution of Jupiter, because that planet is much larger than all the other planets combined. And so if you don't understand how Jupiter formed, you don't understand how Earth and the other planets formed. Another important aspect of the mission, at least for myself and my team, is that since we fly over the poles of Jupiter, we'll be the first ones to study the northern lights or the auroral processes on Jupiter. All the other spacecraft that have gone to Jupiter have stayed in the lower latitude regions, so they didn't have a chance to really make in-depth studies. So we've been watching the data come back from Juno since 2016, and have learned enormous amounts of information about how the auroras on Jupiter are formed. They're the brightest and the strongest auroral emissions in the solar system. So they're very interesting to study and compare to what we know at Earth.
Well, part of studying those auroras is the plasma. Can you tell us a little bit about what these plasma waves are? And then we can dive into this new discovery that you guys made.
Yeah, so a plasma is basically a superheated gas, and it's so hot that the electrons are stripped off the atoms to form electrons and ions that are oppositely charged. And so even though we have like sound waves here at Earth in the atmosphere, in a plasma, in addition to having compressible waves like sound waves, you have the influence of electric and magnetic waves. And so when the electrons and ions are disturbed, they form plasma waves. And one of the things that we do with the plasma wave instrument on Juno, this is an instrument that we built here at the University of Iowa, is we can look at specific frequencies of the plasma that tell us about how much plasma there is, how many electrons per unit volume, for example, we find. And
So
in the process of
what did you find on in those waves on Jupiter that was different from other plasma waves that we know about?
Well, it turns out right over the poles of Jupiter, we found that the density, the number of electrons per unit volume, is very, very small. And we discerned this by looking at particular frequencies of plasma waves. And we were amazed to find out that there were plasma waves at much lower frequencies than we expected. This is partly because Jupiter has the strongest magnetic fields in the solar system. Jupiter's magnetic field is 20 times larger than the one we have here at Earth. And if you couple that with a very low density of plasma, then there's a regime where you can have plasma waves that are at much lower frequencies than we can measure here on Earth. And so this is basically new territory. We haven't studied waves like this before, and the lead of this investigation, Dr. Lysak at Minnesota, has named them Langmuir Alfvén waves.
So I got to ask before I let you go, what does this discovery mean for space exploration and just science as a whole?
I think one thing that we have found is that every time we go someplace new, we find physics that we didn't realize was there. It doesn't necessarily violate any physical laws, but we're in regimes where things are much different than we expected, And we have to kind of scratch our heads and understand what's going on. So it's very exciting to go to a new regime like this and try to understand the physics of what's going on.
Well, Dr. Kurth, it's just as exciting for me to talk to you about this. I've been looking forward to this all week long. Thank you so much for your time today. I cannot wait to see what else you guys discover.
Well, thank you for having me.
If you guys at home want to dive further into this topic, we've linked to Dr. Kurth's full research at WQAD.com underneath the As Seen on TV tab.